Hi, I'm Hetty Bryant, and this is a video for Assessment 2, Self-Awareness and Communication Competence for MGT 538. So the second assessment, so you've already done one and that was your library one. Your second assessment is due on the 5th of April with a return date on the 1st of May. Hopefully we'll get it back to you before then though. The length is only 1,000 to 1,500 words, so 1,000 is a minimum and 1,500 is a maximum. However, I do recognise that there's quite a few chunks in this particular assessment, so if you go over 1,500, I'm happy for you to submit 2,000 words, okay? Over 2,000 I may stop reading. I believe that this assessment's worth about 20%, I hope I'm right there. So let's get started. So always read the tasks, everything that's on the subject outline, read it in detail. And if you don't understand anything, send me an email or ask the question on the assessment forum. So this task, in this assessment, you will be taking a critical look at your own communication in the workplace. So this is looking at yourself. And there are two parts. So the first part is to read DeVito's article, who describes your four selves using the Johari windows, and they're called Johari because they were developed by two gentlemen in the mid-1950s. One was called Joe and one was called Harry. So they're the Johari windows, and you can have a look at the ebook and read that. Okay. And also in the online lecture for week 2, I will be going into great detail about the Johari windows. So then you have to insert at least 6 characteristics in each of the 4 windows, and I'll show a picture of the 4 windows in a minute. So at least 6 characteristics. I think six is probably enough. In the open, in the hidden, in the blind, and the unknown selves. It may be quite difficult to get 6 in the unknown selves. I'll just let you know that. So if you start to struggle, don't feel bad. If you get 3, we'll be happy with that. So you may also use some of the online versions of the Johari windows. So ask someone you work with to help you with the hidden self, okay? Because that's the self that you don't always reveal to others. Or that you don't always know that you're revealing to others. So that's the self where you might be very expressive, like I am with my hands, and you're not aware of it. So a colleague, a trusted friend will give you a feedback on your hidden self. Okay? For the unknown self, you need to spend some time reflecting truths about yourself that have become evidence over the past 12 months. So start to think about critical incidents, start to think about times when something's happened, and start to reflect on, well, what does that mean about you? What does that mean about your unknown self? Okay? When you've had feedback from other people, it might have surprised you. Think about what that feedback was and how that might reveal some of the unknown self. And the unknown self is unknown to you and also unknown to others. So it's very deep, okay? So then you have to discuss and critically reflect on the utility of the Johari window with reference to your 4 selves, okay? So discuss and critically reflect on that. So you put the 6 characteristics in each one and then you reflect. Critically reflect. So knowing self, you as a communicator. So the Johari window is, as I said, made up of 4 areas. So the first is the open self, and that's known to you and that's known to others. There's the blind self. It's not known to you, but other people can see your blind spot. Okay? Then there's the hidden self, that you know a lot about yourself, but you don't reveal that to others. So there's some things that you might want to keep secret and you don't reveal to others. And then there's the unknown. You don't actually know that, and others don't know it. So that's the very deep self that you need to want to have to surface. That's your really unconscious self. And that's where a lot of maybe unconscious biases and stuff like that are revealed. Okay? So let's keep going. I've just realised that this screen's not lined up with the PowerPoint, but that's fine. It'll work. So task 2 in this assessment, so there's two parts to this assessment. Now choose 3 of the workplace related topics listed below and reflect on your interpersonal communication competence and how it may fit with your own competencies. Again, with reference to the Johari window characteristics. So what are some of your interpersonal communication competencies? So there's a few here. There's self-image, gender issues at work, verbal and non-verbal skills, emotional intelligence. Some of you may have done an emotional intelligence test. Cultural issues, change management, power differences, conflict management, giving bad news, listening skills, and taking and following directions. So pick 3 of those. So I've got a tip here. Choose a topic that resonates with your strengths as a communicator. And I'll give you one example and then I'll probably give you another one as well. So, for instance, cultural issues. You may have worked across a number of cultures. So they might be a number of Western cultures where you've got bureaucratic cultures, you've got command and control cultures, you've got very inclusive cultures, you've got self-organising, etc. Or you may have worked in Asian cultures where the Eastern influence is very different. It's a very different way, it's a different culture of much more reticent, not as dominant, not as directive. Yeah. So if you've worked across a number of cultures, then you've developed a situational or cross-cultural communication approach. So you have some sort of competency in dealing with different cultures. So you have some competence, some interpersonal competence. So you can look at that one, okay? And reference back to the Johari window. So when you found out things about yourself, how does that relate to that Johari window? Another one is gender issues at work. And I noticed some of you on the discussion forums when you're introducing yourselves have worked in diversity and inclusion and want to work in diversity and inclusion. So you've got some ideas and some competence in dealing with difference in the workplace, dealing with different perspectives, using inclusive language, etc. So, and some of you specifically working on, gender issues in the workplace. So they're just 2 examples, okay? I hope they help. So to conclude, identify and summarise areas of interpersonal strength, okay? So when you look at that Johari window, when you look at your diagnosis of those 3 topic areas in your workplace, what are your strengths? What are the key areas of your strength? And what are some of the areas that may be needed to be worked on? And how are you actually going to address those needs? So always bring it back to, as well, your professional practice as a communicator and as a leader or whatever, but as a communicator, okay? So always bring it back to that professional practice. How can you address these needs in your professional practice? So always refer to the marking criteria that follows to ensure that you address the criteria, okay? And I'll go over that criteria as well. Ensure that you use the theoretical frameworks and theories that you are learning in this subject to support your argument. So go back to those readings in Module 1, go back to those, but that's not enough. If you want to get anything above a credit, you need to go searching more, you need to do more research, you need to reference more widely, and you have to reference to peer-reviewed articles as well, preferably, okay? So try and avoid doing a Google search and popping things in off the internet. It doesn't really cut it in academic writing, okay? And the presentation needs to be in the format which is provided below. So you must submit in a Word document, because it's easier for me to mark that way, via Easts. Text should be 12 point, 1.5 line spacing and include your name, student number and page numbers. The assessment should be presented as the following. So there's a layout here. So you have a cover sheet that has all of your details on that, okay? Then you have a contents page. So always put the cover sheet in, because just putting your name and what the subject is or whatever in the header isn't enough. You need a cover page. Then a contents page or a table of contents. Then you've got section A, the Johari window and reflection, and then section B is the reflection on those workplace areas, okay, and how you're actually going to, what your strengths are and how you're going to enhance the areas that need to be improved in your professional practice. Then a bibliography or a reference list, okay. Please cite the references using APA Style 6, and there's a guide that can help you to do that. Read the marking rubric to assist you in preparing and presenting the assessment. So the marking rubric is pretty clear. If you work to this, you'll work out what you're going to get, what mark. So the first thing is the depth of investigation and critical analysis of the four selves. So you need to look at those four windows and really critically analyse and investigate each of those areas and unpack what are some of the key things in each of those areas. What are 6 characteristics? Okay, so working all the way down, for high distinction, you need evidence of thorough, sustained investigation of interpersonal communication competence, informed critical analysis and justification of insights and four selves, demonstrates depth of understanding of theory and communication. Okay, now the critical analysis piece means that you actually have to compare and contrast, paraphrase, synthesize, use different literature to actually unpack and understand your four selves. It's not enough to do a description. If you just do description, you'll probably get a credit or less. Okay? You need to actually critically analyse that. So work through those, and a pass, there's just evidence of interpersonal communication competence. You explain the four selves with some critical analysis. Well, really it would be with very limited analysis. It'd be more with more description. Okay, and then for a fail, there's lack of evidence that you have investigated your interpersonal communication. You show little understanding, or you might even not even undertake the task, and so you fail as well. The next criteria is quality of assessment of own competence, areas for improvement and plan to address any needs. So that's critically and convincingly reflecting on your own interpersonal competence, demonstrating a deep understanding of self. You use the Johari characteristics and frequent references to other works. So that's other articles, other books, etc. You integrate theory with insightful analysis of self and workplace. You plan to address needs that flows smoothly and logically from the analysis. So you have a plan that's going to address those needs. And it doesn't have to be a bells and whistle table with a very detailed plan. It can just be some areas that you need to work on for improvement and what you're going to do about that, and maybe what you hope to achieve over the next 6 months, 12 months. Okay? And that's if you want to get a high distinction. Then you work down to look at how you actually, what other criteria to get distinction, credit, pass and fail. Okay? When you get to fail, obviously there's minimal evidence or you don't complete that task. The marking criteria, the last one, is the quality of written expression, presentation and referencing. So this always gets back to your academic writing. Okay? So step through that and you can't go wrong. So if you have any questions about anything, went too fast, email me first of all, or you may be able to phone me. I only work part-time though. Most important, pop your questions on the assessment forum and I can respond to those, and that will help other people as well, other students as well. So I wish you luck with this assessment, and I hope you get enough out of this video. Cheers.